with us as we leave Jacksonville, Florida and cruise to Tampa, Florida. In March of 2023, nope, 2024, my husband and I decided to relocate to Tampa, Florida to be closer to my family, and our son, Michael, came with us for the trip. So we headed out up the St. Johns River and past the port of Jacksonville, and then headed out south the Intercoastal Waterway. The trip took us 5 days overall, 4 nights on the water. We stayed on anchor overnight, all 4 nights, and it was pretty cool. This was our first time doing a trip like this, and we had a few little instances. Our first one was me at the helm in St. Augustine, and I ran us aground. My bad. So Michael and Tracy put the dinghy in the water and used the momentum of the dinghy back and forth and pulled us off of the sandbar. Thank God it wasn't a major issue, but they got us off and put the dinghy back up on the davit, and we were off and running again. So we stayed just south of St. Augustine the first night, and our first day was kind of slow going. We didn't really know a whole lot of what we were doing. We did prepare with a bunch of boat classes from the power squadron. So we did piloting, obviously boat safety. Then we did piloting and navigation. So we knew how to run without electronics. We knew how to follow charts. We knew safety, all of that. And then our first night was also our first time setting our anchor with our brand new windlass. So that was interesting, and just a little nerve-wracking because you don't know if your anchor alarm's going to work, all of that. You're really trusting your electronics and trusting everything you learned. But our first night was so peaceful, just absolutely gorgeous. The sunset was perfect. There were dolphins around us. Michael slept down below, and Tracy and I took turns sleeping up at the helm just to be sure that we weren't going to swing into anything. The next day we were off again. Michael and Tracy took turns at the helm, and I followed us on paper maps and on my phone, and just watching the landmarks and keeping our families up to date on where we were, because people were definitely concerned because this was a little crazy for our first major boating trip to be a 5-day trip. But we did it, and if y'all know us, we just do things like this. Why not? Go big or go home. So down the Intercoastal we go. Second day we fueled up and took on more water and emptied our trash, things like that, and headed south towards Fort Pierce. Our second night on anchor, we anchored near a bridge. There were a few more boats there. That anchoring was a little bit more sketchy because there were boats in the area, and we were near a bridge, and the surface below us was a little rocky instead of sand and mud. So again, we didn't sleep a whole lot, but it was great. We had no issues, perfect weather. The third day,
Starting to think
we made it all the way to Fort Pierce. And this whole trip down the Intercoastal, we went like 10 to 12 knots. There was a lot of no wake zones, some boat traffic. You can see here we were watching our wake, and our dinghy hung a little low on our davit system, so kind of just watching that whole situation. We learned that it takes a lot of eyes, watching forward, watching behind us, watching our wake, watching the charts, everything. I mean, it's like all hands on deck the whole trip. So it was relaxing, but it was also a lot of work for novice boaters like us. But such a good time. I cannot tell you, this was like trip of a lifetime, such a good time. Another beautiful sunset, and then back off day 3 down to Fort Pierce into the lock. So we made it south. We flew up before we went into the lock system. I'm trying to remember, this was a little while ago, but we took the lock system instead of going around the keys because that would have taken way more time, way more fuel, and we were on a tight schedule. So there are 5 locks across the state of Florida, 3 on the East Coast, 2 on the West Coast, and then of course you cross Lake Okeechobee. So we had never been through the lock system before. Obviously Michael and Tracy have on the barges, but it's a little bit different on our boat. So that was a learning experience for sure. It was a good time though. We did it. Michael was at the stern, I was at the bow, and Tracy was at the helm. And it was very fun. Super cool. So we had a great time. The whole trip was super fun. Good conversations, great sunsets, dinners on the boat, TV at night. It was just fun. I don't know, you just can't make these memories again. It was great. So, day 3, headed into the lock system. This is what the lock system looks like. The whole canal system is like a long river. Some of it's pretty narrow.
Damn it.
Tracy was at the helm. You've got to have your life jackets on the entire time that you're in the locks. You don't have to in the canal, but you get your life jackets on. And then when you're there, when you pull into the locks, you shut your engine off and hold on to a rope. The ropes are hanging down the sides. And then they open the gates and the water rushes in. And the first lock system on the East Coast is about a 14-foot difference. So when that gate opens and the water rushes in, that is no joke. Tracy ended up having to come down from the helm and help me hold on because the current was pretty substantial. But we made it through. We did great, and we were off and running. On day 3, we made it. Our goal was to make it through all of the locks, but the last lock closed at 4:30, and we made it at 4:35. So we did not make it all the way through the locks. What that meant was we had to sleep outside of the lock on that last night, which was okay, except for the fact that the mosquitoes there are the size of your head, and you have to tie up to the dolphins, which are these giant pilings. On our way to the lock system, because of the waves and boat traffic, we got a lot of waves on our windshield. So Michael went out and basically was our human windshield wiper. So we did it on the deck side and then went up on the above the helm and was our human windshield wiper. And you can see him here was literally a windshield wiper. It was a little sketchy, but you can see how slow we were going. And then when we docked that night, when we tied off to the Dolphin, they did a little more cleaning. But you can see the difference there from the salt water to where he was cleaning. It was definitely needed. It was funny because as the salt water was coming on, you didn't notice it until it was just completely covered with salt water. And it was like, wow, okay, major changes. There's my goofy son. He cracks me up all the time. So then we're back in the lock system. And you can see that it's just a big hole, really. You're holding on, and as the water goes up, you hold the rope and you just go with it. It's actually really, really cool. There's the gates opening and the water coming in. It's not like super fast, but as you get further to the west coast, it's easier to hang on to. And as you get closer to the top, obviously, you can hold on a little easier. So there's us coming to the end of our locks. So the night that we slept outside of the lock system, Michael and Tracy did a little bit of fishing just before dusk, and then the mosquitoes got too bad. So we sealed everything up on the boat and came inside and hung out. Michael was able to hang out on a little bit on the bow with the dog and have some peace and quiet. You never realize how close you are on the boat until you're in the helm and the aft for days, and you're like, wow. So you better like each other. We did. It was a great time. So this was our last sunset on our trip. There's the sunset in the lock system, and it really was beautiful. That night, the sky was great, and the stars were out. It was wonderful. So the next day, I think the locks opened at like 8 o'clock in the morning, and we were first in line. Super surprised to see other boats had come and joined us in the morning. So when we woke up, there were other boats there, and we were all ready to go in first thing. So you kind of just have to, we were up and ready to go before the locks opened, of course. But so we went through, and then we were off and running again. There we are into the locks, and you can see there's nobody in front of us. We're just ready to go. On the other side of the last lock was Fort Myers, or heading into Fort Myers, and this was right after the storms had hit Fort Myers in 2023, and there was no channel markers. They were gone. A lot of debris in the water, so you kind of had to pay attention to what you were doing, and not that you don't have to anyway, but you just didn't know what was in the water, and really had to pay attention to your surroundings. We picked up our pace a lot. On that day, we were under major time constraints. Tracy had to leave us in Fort Myers and disembark, and then my dad joined us in Fort Myers. So Tracy left and got off and took my dad's car to Tampa, and met my sister and got on an airplane. My sister took my dad's car. It was like a whole thing, but thank God for my family. Everybody coordinated it so well. Tracy was able to get back to work in North Carolina. My dad was able to join us in Fort Myers and take over with Michael and captaining the boat the rest of the way to Tampa. So you can see my dad there, and Michael and my dad, mostly my dad at that point, captained us through Fort Myers, and you can see the damaged marinas and the shipwrecked boats, and it was just sad. And super sketchy because it was also spring break. So again, no water markers, no channel markers, boaters that did not know what they were doing, and just debris in the water. So being super cautious coming out of Fort Myers, we decided to come up on the outside, so go north in the Gulf. And instead of taking the intercoastal, because again, this was our last day, we had to get to Tampa on this day, and we don't go super fast. So we did. We made it about 17 knots in 2-foot rolling waves. So things were moving on the boat. And it is a wet boat. So water was coming up over the top, and it was a little bit nerve-wracking. But we made it. There's the Sunshine Skyway Bridge, and we were all super happy to see it because we made it in plenty of time. We wanted to be at the marina well before dusk and being able to dock easily and successfully. We had never been to this marina before. We didn't know where our slip was, so we had a lot to figure out coming into Tampa Bay. So we came into Tampa Bay, we took the main channel in, and if you know anything about Tampa Bay, if you don't follow the main channel, it gets down to like a foot. So you've got to be super, super careful inside Tampa Bay to stay in the channel, and then when you cut north to get to your marina, you've just really got to follow the markers, which we did, and we did fine. When we first got here, we docked at West Shore Yacht Club, and I can't say enough about Gabe and Ryan and Kevin at the West Shore Yacht Club. Those guys are fantastic. Called Gabe when we got there, and it was a Sunday night, and he answered the phone, told us where we needed to go. We were able to back in perfectly, and as you can see, we docked and we're all set. It was great.